You're stepping on my hair. You're stepping on my hair. You're stepping. Thank you. Lay down. Be a good girl. Be a good girl. Hi, everyone. Welcome or welcome back to Novel Idea. My name is Dia, and today I want to wrap up what I read in September. So once again, I did not wrap anything up in September. Lots of time just spent with family and going out of town and getting back into the swing of things with flag football and Bible study and just all of that. And I just did not take the time to sit down and film so that I could wrap up the books that I have read. So I thought that I would do that now. But wow, that light is just obnoxious. I'm so glad it's sunshiny outside, so I'm not going to complain about the sunshine. Let's start with the first of the shorties that I read, and that was Rigoletto. This is the opera guide to Rigoletto by Giuseppe Verdi, and it was wonderful. Thank you so much, Victoria, for getting it. I really enjoyed learning about Verdi, as well as kind of what his ideas behind the opera were. I didn't get as much out of the words themselves and that kind of thing because all of it is in here, but I did love learning about the different people who have played the different parts over the years and just finding out like what point in their career they felt like they were accomplished enough to be able to perform it. And I just really enjoyed it. I thought it was well worth the, let's see, 76 pages. All right, then I did a little bit of Shakespeare, and this year I decided to read As You Like It, and there were some lines in here that I recognized as things that I say or that I have heard other people say on a regular basis, and I didn't know they were from this play, so that was really fun. And it's funny, but it isn't as comedic as a lot of his comedy plays are. This one was a little bit more of a love story, which was not my favorite thing. I kind of figured that it was going to be a Shakespearean kind of love story where we were going to have almost people at odds with one another that then ended up liking each other, whereas this one was more people pursuing and not necessarily enemies to lovers. I would really like to watch a production of it again. I've seen it once. I think I was more involved with the people I was with at the production than I was the production itself, so I'd like to watch it again. Then I read The Abolition of Man by C.S. Lewis. I actually read this during reading sprints with Tiffany's Patreon, and I got it done in our sprint times. So it's a very short book, and I think that that is my complaint about it. It is about education. C.S. Lewis is basically making an argument for what we have done to our education system and what it is ultimately doing to the children who are coming out of that education system. And just so you know, I think this was written in like the 1940s. So surprisingly, yeah, 1944 was when this was written. So surprisingly, it feels very today, a thing that could have been written last week. I'm just going to read the end of chapter 1, basically. You can hardly open a periodical without coming across the statement that what our civilization need is more drive, more dynamism, or self-sacrifice, or creativity. In a sort of ghastly simplicity, we remove the heart and demand the function. We make men without hearts and expect of them virtue and enterprise. We laugh at honor and are shocked to find traitors in our midst. We castrate and bid the geldings be fruitful. And that's the way that he carries on throughout the entirety of the book. I wish there would have been more to it. I wanted more. I didn't think it was long enough. I could have read on and on with it. So very, very good book. And I wish I would have had it when I was educating my kids. I really do. It would have been such an encouragement. If you are a home educator and you haven't read it, I would highly recommend it. If you are a public educator and haven't read it, I would also highly recommend it. Then I read the children's version that I own of A Midsummer Night's Dream. Look at that. I've got the glory coming through on me. I read A Midsummer Night's Dream. This is retold by Martin Waddel with pictures by Alan Marks, and I loved this. It was so funny. As you can tell just from the cover, all of the things that happen in A Midsummer Night's Dream, all the characters, everything is just so well done in the pictorial moments of the book. And it is told in prose, and so it's very easy to follow, and it is very fun. I think that I'm going to send this on to my granddaughter because I think that she would love it. She would love it. Then I read Wyrd Sisters, which is a play based on Terry Pratchett's book, Wyrd Sisters. I don't think it was as successful as Terry Pratchett's writing is. It had a lot more sexual innuendo. It had a lot more just kind of the way that it was told on page felt more contrived than Terry Pratchett's work does to me. And I have never found Terry Pratchett offensive, and this play I found offensive. It was a retelling of Macbeth, which is what Wyrd Sisters is. It's a very loose retelling of Macbeth. So I did not enjoy the play form of this book. I didn't think it was very successful. And then I read the Peterkin Papers by Lucretia Hale? I can't remember for sure. I'll make sure to put a picture up. I have already sent this one off to my granddaughter because I think she is going to love it. She is going to absolutely love it. It is about a family. If you have ever read Amelia Bedelia and some of the antics that she does when she is left a set of instructions, like dress the turkey for dinner, and she actually dresses it up in a little, bow tie and button-down shirt and jacket, and and all of that, because she doesn't have street smarts. She doesn't have common sense. And this family of the Peterkins is like a family of Amelia Bedelia's. And they just do, everything that they do is contrary to common sense. And so a problem presents itself, and they go about it in the most roundabout manner in order to try to solve that problem. And it was really fun, but I think that she is going to enjoy it much more than I did. It is definitely written for that younger audience, and I think my granddaughter's gonna really enjoy it. I finished Sweetwell. I think this might be one of my favorite books so far this year. I didn't know what to expect of this. I'd never read Eric Malpass before. I do have another of his books on my shelf, and I'm now very excited to read it because I loved this writing. I don't know how much of this is true history of Shakespeare. That's what this book is about, by the way. This is about Shakespeare's childhood and teenage years, and some of his early marriage. And I didn't know what to expect. Like I said, I don't know how much of it is actually, true history. I think that he did his research as much as you can about Shakespeare, but nonetheless, the writing of this, the way the story flowed, the voice that I feel he gave Shakespeare, I just loved it. And I don't know of any other book that I have read that I can even compare it to. I love the way that he gives that sense of time and place, and he writes absolutely beautifully without being flowery. I thought it was absolutely wonderful, and I am so surprised that there are not more discussions about it. Maybe it's because it is a novel instead of a work of history, but I just thought it was wonderful. So can't recommend it highly enough. I thought that it was going to be like a middle grade book. It's not. It's not. It's very much written for adults, and I'm going to go on in the series because I liked it so much. Next, we have my reread of Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky, and this was, let me say this. I love Dostoevsky, and I love his characterizations. I love the way that he is the master of writing inward thought, that those wrestlings that we have inside ourselves, in our hearts and our minds, the emotion of something, he is excellent at writing. However, when you are in the mind of someone who is nearly sociopathic and is trying to convince himself of his right, and that what he did was not a crime, and all of these other kinds of things, it is very, very difficult for me to stomach it, to get through it. It doesn't make it any less genius. It doesn't make it any less fantastic of a novel. It is, however, just really hard to wait until the epilogues to feel like the people in, or the main person in here, Raskolnikov, is somebody that I want to read about. And so yeah, it was still a wonderful reread. I really enjoyed listening to, or reading, not listening, reading the comments on Discord that were, as people were going through it and talking about it. I really enjoyed that. We have somebody in the Discord who is Russian, and she was talking quite a lot about kind of even like the types and shadows of the names in here, and so what those names mean and why they're called certain things, and it was just really cool. I really enjoyed it. I got a lot more out of it than I did the first time that I read it, in the sense that that was happening. The first time I read it in a class, and there was lots of discussion, but I don't know that it's something that I would just have picked up and reread all on my own. Brothers Karamazov is still, or Karamazov, is still my absolute favorite Dostoevsky. Then I read Lilies of the Field by William Barrett. Also might be one of my favorites of the year. I loved this. So this is about Homer Smith, who has just returned from the war, and he doesn't have any family, he doesn't have any commitments, and all of the monies that he was paid as a soldier, he uses to buy a vehicle and basically drive around the western United States. And he comes across, as he's traveling around, he comes across a kind of tableau of women that are trying to refurbish and build a mission. And I'm trying to remember, I think it was in Colorado. But anyway, these nuns just immediately take him in to their hearts as if he is a godsend, and they have him finishing a roof, they have him doing all of these different things, and he thinks that he's just going to stop there for the afternoon or maybe for a day and help these women, but they feed him, and he has a bed in the back of the car that he has purchased. He purchased a station wagon, and so he has a bed in the back of his vehicle, and he stays basically the whole summer to help these women. And he and Mother Superior butt heads, but their relationship grows and changes, and it's just beautiful. I loved it so much. It was funny, it was poignant, it was just such a satisfying read. I really liked it. I read Susanna Clarke's The Ladies of Grace Adieu, and another one that I really enjoyed. I kind of wish I would have saved it for October, but it came available at my library, and so I went ahead and picked it up. And it was a bunch of short stories that were very fairy tale-esque and a little spooky, and I just loved them. I loved it. Every single one of them I really enjoyed. And there are some characters in one or two of the stories from Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, but overall they are just these dark, kind of grim fairy tales, and they were wonderful. I just loved it. I had a few hits this month, as you can see. Another one that I really, really loved was Otherworldly. And this is by Yee-lum Mac with illustrations by Kelsey Garrity Riley. It's just words. That's all it is. It's words that she has given the epistemology of, and then has the definition, and they're not all English words, and they're just done beautifully with illustrations, and they were wonderful. It was just such a, I would read 3 or 4 of them a night as the month went on, to see the way that Kelsey interpreted what should be on this page. And this one is Quitch, and it's Welsh, and it means a hug or a cuddle, a safe place, or the space or cupboard under the stairs. And I just find that very funny that Harry Potter lived in a cupboard under the stairs, and he played Quidditch, which is close to how this is said. This is Quitch. So he lived in the Quitch, and he played Quidditch. Next, I finished the Aeneid. I read this with Jack from Spread Book Joy, and then separately I read it with Charlene from Coffee and a Book. And it was wonderful. Quite a bit of this that I remembered. And then there was quite a few things that jumped out at me that were brand new. I remember when I was going through it with a class that my teacher really didn't like Aeneas. And I think that kind of stayed with me, so that I was just expecting to not like this man. And I don't know why he doesn't like Aeneas, because I thought, I mean, there were some things that he did that I thought were kind of stupid, but I mean, that's humanity in general. And the gods were just as bad in this book. So in case you don't know what the Aeneid is about, it is about Aeneas and his family escaping from Troy because he is told that he is to be the founder of the Roman Empire. He is relentlessly pursued by one of the gods because she does not like him because he is Trojan. Aeneas is the son of Venus and Anchises. Anchises, just a human man. Venus is the daughter of Jupiter or Zeus. We're doing Roman history here versus Greek history. So this is now the names of the gods in Roman mythology and not in Greek mythology. So Jupiter is Zeus, and Aeneas is the grandson of Jupiter. And anyway, it's the story of them going about trying to find where it is that they are to establish Rome and Roman culture. And it is about all of the hardships and the dangers and all kinds of other things that go along with doing that. And it was wonderful. I really enjoyed it. My version is in, I have 2 versions actually. I have this one and I have one other one. And the one that I read from was not this one, because this one is in prose, and my other version, the one that I read from, is John Dryden, and it is in verse. And I loved his translation. I thought it was wonderful. And I enjoyed reading kind of that rhythm and the cadence of having it in verse rather than in prose. If there was something I wasn't quite understanding, I would look it up in the prose version, which this translation is MacKail, J.W. MacKail. So I looked it up in there if I needed a kind of to understand a little bit better, but there wasn't very often I had to do that. It was just fabulous. The only complaint that I have is I don't like the way it ends. I wanted to go just a little bit more, because we end with a death and it's over. Then the next one that I read was Jamila. And I picked this up because I heard Sophie from Redhead Reading talking about it. And I saw it at a little free library like the next day after I heard her talking about it on her video. She really liked it. And I thought, okay, well, it's free. No skin off if I don't like it. No big deal. I liked it. I didn't love it, but I liked it a lot. Toward the end is where I kind of, it took on a little more lackluster to me toward the end. But this is about Jamila, or Jamila, I don't know how to say it. But it is about Jamila, who has been married, but it sounds like they got married like immediately before her husband left for the war front. And most of the men in her village, in fact, there are several brothers in this family, and it sounds like they've all kind of gone off to the war except for one who is youngest. And it sounds like she got married to her husband right before he had to leave. So it doesn't even sound like the marriage was consummated. I don't know for sure. But she is very capable. She's very well loved by her family, or her husband's family, who she lives with, and especially by her husband's youngest brother, who is actually telling us the story. And the youngest boy just knows that his oldest brother is not the kindest, not the most thoughtful, and just has overheard him saying some things and seen that he always greets everybody before he greets his wife. So I don't know if they were like forced into the marriage, or if it was just something that was out of convenience or what, but it seems as if there's no love lost between the two of them. And one day, a man who had previously lived in the village as a boy has come back from the war disabled, and he begins to help Jamila and the younger brother to take grain off to the mill every single day. And so as it's harvested and bagged up, they load it onto carts, they take it to the mill, they unload it, and then they send a lot of the flour off to the war front and bring part of the flour back to the house for their own use. And like I said, she lives with her husband's family, but she ends up falling in love with this man who has come back from the front disabled. And one day the two of them just disappear. And it's about the time that the war is ending and her husband is coming back from the war. And you can tell that he didn't really love her, because he's not heartbroken about it at all. but the one who is heartbroken in never being able to see her again is the younger brother. And I just really enjoyed the story, even though there's an obvious, divorce and adultery in it. It is not the focus of the book. The focus is on what it means to love, what it means to be loved, and to find what is worth sacrificing for. I enjoyed it. It's not going to be a new favorite, but it was something that I really enjoyed. And then lastly, I have Wave of the Future. Is this the last one? No, I have a couple of others. This is Wave of the Future. This is A Confession of Faith by Anne Morrow Lindbergh. I don't think that this should be called A Confession of Faith. This is a political, treatise, almost. Charles Lindbergh and Anne Morrow Lindbergh were kind of famously opposed to the United States getting involved in foreign war. And this is kind of her stating why that is. And she just wants people to really look at what it is about getting involved in foreign countries' wars that feels completely wrong to her. And I have to say that much of what she says is still true today. When was this one written? Copyright 1940, this particular one. So something I did really enjoy reading. And like I said, that I agree with much of what is in here. I don't agree with everything, but I agree with probably 88% of what is in here. And the way that Anne Morrow Lindbergh writes is something that is very easy to understand, to grasp a hold of, and to kind of turn over in your thoughts and in your heart and mind so that you can make those decisions for yourself, because you completely understand what it is that she is trying to say. And so I just really enjoyed it. I loved it. The Lost Story by Meg Shaffer. And I picked this up because I really enjoyed The Wishing Game. I didn't love The Wishing Game. I thought that, it was a pretty simple story, but I still really liked it. This one is being compared to almost like a modern day Narnia. And I don't agree with that at all. The only thing that's even close to a modern day Narnia is that they go through something into another world. I started off thinking it wasn't so bad, and then we end up with some relationships that feel very unhealthy, and also just some situations that are discussed that are very unhealthy. And the answer to it all is to run away, to go to this place. So it's not that, as in Narnia, where we are discovering something to strengthen us, to help us to cope with what is going on in the world, to re-enter the world stronger and ready for much of what is going to be thrown at us. This one is more about escape. I didn't love it. I didn't even kind of love it. I almost DNF'd it. It started out at about, I would say, it was running at about an 80% for me. And then I found out a couple of things, and it dropped to like a 65%. And I came very, very close to DNFing the book. I did finish it. Then I read Ink and Bone by Rachel Cain, and this one I really liked. Ink and Bone is about what would have happened if the Library of Alexandria would not have been destroyed. And in this book, Rachel Cain decides to make the library into its own country, with its powers being protected in a way that is almost encouraging evil. And we follow Jess, who has been sent to train and possibly apprentice at the library, become a spy for those outside of the library. And I thought it was very unique. I thought it was very well written. I really liked the characters, and I just thought that the whole thing was so well done. And I'm gonna go on in the series because some things happened right at the end that leave me on a cliffhanger, and I do not like that. So that is everything, you guys. All of the books that I read in September, for Shorty September, for Shake-tember, for all of the other things. So I had a pretty good month of reading. I didn't read as much as I normally do, but that's okay. Toward the end of the month, I did start The Dreaming Tree by, is it CJ Cherry? I'll put a picture up. It's a duology that's in a bind up, and I'm enjoying it, but I've kind of set it aside because some things at the library have come in and I want to read them first since they're due, and I own The Dreaming Tree thing. So that is that. And I would love to know, you guys, if you have read any of these books and what you thought about them. In fact, what I'd really love to know is, have any of you read this Eric Malpass book? Have any of you read Sweet Will, or any of the other parts of the trilogy? The Cleopatra Boy and A House of Women are the next two in the series. I would love to know if anybody besides me has read this, because this was so good. That's everything. So thanks for joining me today. Look at that paw on the pillow. Like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to.